Hello, in this video, I will take you through our contribution tracking template. Now, this template is ideal for businesses that offer offline banking solutions. So you have multiple customers and you maintain a bank account for each where they make deposits and withdrawals. And you also offer small loan services. So if you offer those type of services, then this template is ideal for you. Now on the screen, I've opened up the template and it's powered with Microsoft Excel. So you need to have Excel, a version from 2013, installed on your computer. Now, once you open up the document, you arrive at the dashboard, and this holds three buttons to navigate to the three major sections of the template. We have the customer section where you add new customers, the bank service section where you enter deposits and withdrawals, and the loan service section where you enter loan transactions. Now, in this video, I'm going to go through all the sections. I'm going to start with the customer section. Now, to open it, you simply click. So clicking on the button takes us to the customer section of the template. So now we're in the customer information section of the template. Now all sections in this template have a similar formatting. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the section title, and this tells you at any point in time the section you're on. So notice it says customer information, so you know this is where you document all customer details, kind of like a database for customers. Now to the right of this, we have three buttons: to add a new customer, to delete an existing customer, or to sort customers in ascending order. Above this, we have the navigation pane, and this is made up of several labels to navigate to a particular section of the template. So for instance, if I click on the dashboard label, you notice that it takes us back to the dashboard where we initially started. Recall, I then clicked on customers. So each label represents a button to navigate to a particular section of the template. Now below the three buttons here, we have our data table, and this is where all customers will be listed. Now at the top of the table, we have our column headers, and these are attributes that you're expected to supply for each customer. Now to add a new customer, you simply click on the new customer button, and this pops up an Excel form. Now Excel forms provide an easy way to store data in this table. So you notice that the column headers I referenced earlier are equally listed on the form as labels. The user simply has to supply values to the white portion of the form. So the first attribute you're expected to supply is the dates. So this is the date in which they open an account with you. So your first contact with the client. By default, Excel is going to enter today's date. However, you can modify the day, the month, or the year. So let's assume the account was opened on the 1st of May. So notice I modified the date portion to the 1st. 5th represents May, 2018 is the year. Now, once you're done entering the date, you move to the next field, which is the customer name. You can do that by either clicking in the white field below the label, or you can make use of the tab key on your keyboard. So the tab key will move you from your current field to the next field for data entry. So here I supply the customer's name. Next, I indicate the gender. Now this holds a drop-down list. So you can either click and select male or female, or you can start typing, for instance, F, and it will autofill with the option that starts with F. So moving to the next field, I enter the status. In the same way, I can start typing S, it will autofill with single. There are three default options: single, married, and widowed. Moving to the next field, I enter the phone number, the email address, the occupation, address, and the next of kin. So once I'm done supplying all the values, I simply click on the enter button to store this customer to our data table. So notice as I click on enter, it tells me the customer is added. Once I click OK, we should see the customer listed on the first row. So you notice all the attributes that I supplied. If I scroll to the right, so we can see the remaining columns. So you notice the address field, the next of kin, and you notice we have two additional columns at the end. So the last two columns are formula generated. So Excel will automatically calculate the account balance, for this customer. So using information from the banking section, at any point in time, you know the total amount that this customer has in their account, and also the total amount that the customer owes you for other transactions. So later on in the video, I'm going to demonstrate how these two columns work, but I've covered the first functionality, which is to add a new customer. I'm just going to repeat that and add another customer. So you simply click on new customer button, it pops up the form. You enter the date. I'm going to leave today's date. Next, you enter the customer's name, the gender, the status, the phone number. Now all the fields are not mandatory, okay? So the email address is optional, occupation is optional. The only mandatory fields will be the customer's name, the date, and the phone number. So the other fields are optional. So if you don't have the information as at today, you can leave it blank and simply click enter. So notice as I click enter, it's still going to accept it and store the customer. So you don't have to supply all the fields. Now, whenever you get the information, maybe tomorrow, next tomorrow, for instance, you obtain the email, all you need to do is to click on the email address column for that customer and then enter the email address. So at any point in time, you can update the values, okay? In the same way they change their phone number, you can just double click on the phone number and replace it with the new phone number. Okay, so that's how you add new customers. You click on new customer, supply the values, and click on enter. Next, to delete a customer. Now, we've currently added 2 customers. So if peradventure I want to delete any of these customers, maybe they change their mind and they're not opening the account again, all I need to do is to be on that row. So you notice that each row represents a customer. So the first row represents Rose Random's information. The second row represents Mary Anthony's information. So if I want to delete Mary Anthony, all I need to do is to click on Mary Anthony. That's the name. So you notice there's a border around. So any cell I click, you notice there's that border around it. So I just need to be on the Mary Anthony. That's the name. Once I click delete, the template is going to ask, are you sure you want to delete this customer? And also tell you the customer's name. So if you do, you click yes. If you don't, you click no. So that's how you delete customers from this section. And now the last functionality is the sort customer button. This will enable you sort the list we have here in ascending order. So you notice now the list is in the order we enter it. So we entered Rose first, then Mary. But M comes before R. So if you click on this button, it will automatically sort this in ascending order. So notice as I click, it will automatically move Mary Anthony's information up and Rose Random at the bottom. Now, this becomes very useful when you have multiple, 20, 30, 40 customers. So it's easy for you to identify a customer because it will now be in ascending order from A to Z. So that covers the first section of the template where you add all your customers. So you click on new customer and supply details. To delete, you click on the customer's name, click on delete, and then you click on yes. And to sort, you simply click on the sort button and it will sort it in ascending order. So now we move to the next section of the template, which is the service list. Now to open it, you simply click on the label. So notice as I click, it will take us to that section of the template. So now we're in the service list section of the template. So recall I clicked on the label and now we're in the section. So you notice it has a similar formatting with the customer section we just covered. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the title that tells you that this is where you enter all the services you render. So anything you charge for, you need to list it here. Now to the right of this, we have 2 buttons: to add a new service and to delete an existing service. Above the 2 buttons here, we have our navigation pane to go to other sections of the template, and below we have our table where all services will be listed. Now to add a new service, you simply need to click on the first field and supply the service name. So our first service will be our registration fee. So once you're done typing the field, you move to the next field. Now you notice we have 2 other columns. We have the charge and the percentage. Now for all of your service, either you have a fixed charge. So for instance, the registration fee can be $2,000. Or for your loans, you have a percentage. So the percentage column is to be used only when you're entering a loan service. For any other service you render, you're most likely going to use the fixed charge. So I just successfully entered the first service, which is registration fee, $2,000. To enter another, you simply click on the new service button, and you notice it's going to insert a row at the bottom here. So you simply repeat the process. You enter the service name, for instance, house loan. And since this is a loan, most likely we charge a percentage interest on the principal. So all you need to do is in the percentage field, you enter the percentage that you charge as interest. So let's assume we charge a 10% interest. So you notice the template automatically formats that to percent. So that's how this section works. You simply click on new service, you enter the service name, and you enter either a fixed charge or a percentage. So either or, not the 2 together. So for most of your services, for instance, legal fee, this is equally going to be a fixed charge, let's say $5,000. If you have additional loans, you enter it in and specify the flat interest rate. So that's a summary of how the section works. You document all the services you render with your respective charge or interest rate. Now to delete a service, the same way, you simply click on the service name, for instance, legal fees, click on delete. The template is going to ask if you want to delete, you click yes. If you don't, you click no. So that pretty much covers this section. This is just where you list all the services, all your income sources. Anything you charge for, you need to list it here with the respective charge or interest percent. So moving to the next field, which is our banking section, you simply click on the label bank, and it takes us to that section of the template. So now we're in the banking section of the template. Now, this is a section you'll most likely use the most, as this is where you document all customer transactions. So when you're maintaining their bank accounts, for instance, making deposits or withdrawals, or when you're offering loan services. Now, in the upper left-hand corner, as I said earlier on, this is the label. So this tells you what you're supposed to do in this section. So notice it says deposits and withdrawals. So you know this is where you maintain the customer's bank accounts. So we currently have two customers. So let's assume they're both making a deposit today. So we simply click on the deposit button to indicate the credit transaction. So once we click, it pops up the form. And here we need to indicate first the transaction date. So let's assume today they're both making a deposit. Next, you indicate the customer's name. So this holds a drop-down list and it's going to show all customers you have. So if you have 50 customers here, all 50 customers are going to be listed. Now, a quick way is you can start typing the customer's name. So if you know it starts with Rose, you can start typing Rose. It will auto fill with the first customer's name that starts with Rose. Next, you just indicate the amounts they're crediting to their account. So let's assume Rose is making a 20,000 Naira deposit. So once you've supplied the three fields, you simply click on enter and it's going to store that. So you notice the first row is populated with the date of the transaction, the customer's name, the type, this is a credit transaction, and the deposit column now has 20,000. So now we've indicated that we've received 20,000 from Rose. So if you go to our customer section by clicking on the label, and Rose is the second customer, if I scroll to the right, you'll notice that the account balance has now increased to 20,000. So the template will automatically update this column in the customer section, telling you the current account or the current amount, that the customer has in their bank account. So I'm equally going to add a deposit for the other customer. Notice it's 0 right now. So if I go back to the banking section and I click on new credits, it pops up the form. I'm going to use the same dates, but this time around, select the second customer, Mary, and let's make this 50,000. So once I'm done, I click enter and it's going to store that as a credit transaction for Mary. So notice we have Mary credit 50. Meaning if we go back to our customer section, the balance should have increased to 50,000. So that's how all the sections are connected. In the same way, just for demonstration purposes, let's assume that Mary withdraws part of this money. So ignore the validity. Let's just, for demonstration purposes, assume that today she comes back and withdraws 30,000. So to document that, you make use of the debit and withdrawal button. So once you click, it pops up on form. Similar to the form we just saw, the date is also filled. You can modify the date, the month, or the year. Next, you select the customer. So I'm going to click the drop-down list, click on Mary. And once you do, the moment you click the tab key on your keyboard, it will automatically tell you the balance that Mary has with you. So you know Mary cannot withdraw more than 50. If I change this to Rose and I tab, you notice it tells me 20. So it will automatically extract the balance from the customer section. So that way you know that this customer cannot withdraw more than this amount. So I'm going to change this back to Mary. And now I'm going to indicate that she's withdrawing 30,000. So once I click enter, it's going to store the debit transaction. So notice we have a third row, the same date, the customer, but this time around it's in red and in the withdrawal column because it's a debit. And you notice here it equally tells us it's a debit. So with these two transactions, the second and third, it means that Mary should have a balance of only 20,000 with us because she started with 50 and she withdrew 30. So going to the customer section, you notice the balance is reduced to just 20,000. So this column will automatically update with your point in time account balance. So that's the first functionality of the banking section. You can add deposits and you can also add debit transactions. The third button is to delete, and this works just like other sections. You just click on the customer's name you want to delete, click delete, and click yes, and it's going to delete that transaction. So I'm going to click on no because I don't want to delete it. Lastly, you notice we have the other services button. So other services, this is where you document sales. So whenever you earn income. So for deposits and withdrawals, here you're just storing the customer's money. So 20,000 is for the customer, 50 is for the customer, and 30 was withdrawn. Whenever you're actually making revenue, so for instance, for your registration fees, for your legal fees, or you're offering loan services, you make use of these other services button. So once you click on it, it's going to take you to another section. And you notice the label at the top tells you that this is where you document sales information. So now we're in the sales information section of the template. So you notice the label says sales information. So this is where you document any sale. Whenever you're making money from a customer, you make use of this section to document it. So pretty much whenever you're offering any of the items you listed in your service list. Recall we've listed 3 items. So if a customer is buying a registration form or is obtaining a legal fee or applying for a loan, you make use of the other services button to document that transaction. So you notice we have 4 buttons to the right: to add a new credit sale, to add a new loan, to add payments when received from a customer, and to delete an existing sale. Above this, we have our navigation pane, and below this, we have our table where all transactions will be listed. Now, to add a new sale, which is a credit sale, you simply click on this button and it pops up the form. Now, the difference between the first and the second button is this is used for any service you render except for loans, while this is used for only loans. So that's the difference between the two. So they're both sales, but the first is any service that is not a sale, that is not a loan, and the second is every loan. So this is the first form. First of all, you indicate the date that they're purchasing the service. Next, you indicate the customer. So let's assume Mary. Next, you indicate the item. So what is it on your service list that this customer is getting? So this is going to list all the items you have. So we're going to use a registration fee. And once you select it, the template will automatically return the price you indicated in the service section. The same way, notice if I change this to legal fee and I move away, it will automatically update to 5. Okay, so that way you don't always have to remember the amount you charge for every service you have. You simply click and it will automatically return it. So once you're done, you click enter and it's going to store that transaction. So it tells us the sale is added and we should see the first row with the transaction. So this is a credit sale. This is the amount that the customer is expected to pay us for this particular service on this day. So now we've indicated a credit sale. So we haven't received money from Mary. We've just indicated that Mary has purchased a registration form. So if we go to our customer section, we should see that Mary owes us $2,000 because Mary hasn't paid, but she has purchased a form. So that's the first functionality, how you add credit sales. Now, when Mary is ready to pay, you make use of the payments button. So once you click on payments, it's going to pop up a form. First, you indicate the date that Mary is paying. Next, you select Mary's name. Now, once you move away, it will tell you the total amounts that Mary is owing you. So Mary is owing you a total of 2,000 naira. So here you indicate the total Mary is paying. Once you click enter, it's going to store that payment. So now you've received the sum of 2,000 from Mary Anthony. Notice it says payments, but this is credits. So if we go to the customer section now, the balance should be 0 because Mary owes us nothing now. So that's how this column works. It works with your other transactions. Okay, so now we're going to do the same registration form for the second customer. I'm going to click on credit sale. It's going to be the same dates. This time around is going to be rows, and it's also going to be a registration form. So I can type R, it will autofill, and once I move away, it will populate that with 2. Now this is modifiable. So if peradventure the amount varies depending on the customer, you can change this from 2,000 to a higher or lower amount. Once you're done, you click on enter, and it's going to store that sale, and we should see the third row. So notice we have the date, the customer, and this is a credit sale. So in the same way now, rows should be owing us 2,000. So if we go to our customer section, we should see negative 2,000. So that's how this column works. It tells you the total amounts the customer is owing you, and that's separate from their bank account. So going back to the section, I'm going to add a payments now by clicking on the payments button. I'm going to leave the same dates, select the customer. Once I tab away, it's going to tell me Rose is owing me 2. Notice if I change this to Mary, it's going to say Mary is owing me 0. Okay, so the template automatically updates. So I'm going to change this back to Rose, and I'm going to enter a sum of 2,000 and click on enter. So now Rose should also owe me nothing now because she has paid the 2,000 for the registration fee. So that's how you make use of the credit sale button and the payments button. The next button, this is how you add loans. So let's assume that Rose is going to take a loan, the house loan. So you simply click on the new loan button, it pops up a form. Works the same way. You enter the date she's taking the loan, the type of loan she's taking. Now this is going to list all the loan types. So it's going to list all the services from your service list. So if you remember the loan, for instance, you can start typing, it will autofill with characters or the loan that meets the characters you enter. Okay, so once you indicate the loan and you move away, the template will automatically return the interest rate as you specified in the service list section. So recall for house loan, we indicated 1%. So that's how the template works. Next, you indicate the customer that's taking the loan, for instance, Ron, and the loan amount. So how much is she actually taking for the house loan? So let's assume she's taking a total of 200,000 just for demonstration purposes. Now, once you tab away from this field with a tab key on your keyboard, it will automatically calculate the interest amount, which is 10% of the principal, and the total amount altogether, which will be 220,000. So it automatically calculate that for you using the interest percent. So once you're done, you click on enter and it's going to store the loan transaction. So now we have the 6th row, I think, or is it 5th? Yeah, 5th row. And this lists the house loan, the revenue amount. So this is what you're earning from the loan. This is the loan amount, and it equally tells you that this is a loan. So now if we go back to the customer section, the customer should be owing us 220,000. So 200,000 for the loan and 20,000 interest. So if you go to customers, you notice the balance is now 220. So as the customer pays, maybe monthly, weekly, or quarterly, you simply repeat the process. So you click on the payments button, you enter the customer's name. You notice it tells us 220, then you enter the amount they're paying on a monthly basis. So the advantage is the template will let you know at any point in time the total amount they're owing you. Okay, so you have the data here. You know, this is the loan they've taken. This is what you're earning from the loan. This is the principal amount. Okay, so that's how this section works. It just enables you to track your income received from all the services in your service list section. So the credit sales is used for transactions that have a flat amount, like your registration fee, your legal fee, and so on. The loan button is used for transactions that use percentages. So notice as I click on house loan, it will automatically return the percentage. And once I enter the loan amount, it will automatically calculate the interest and the total. And the last button is to delete a sale. You simply click on the customer's name, click on delete, it's going to confirm. If you click on yes, it will delete, no, it will not. So that's a summary of how the sales section works. This is where you document all of your income transactions. So whenever you make money, you document that here. So next we move to the expense section of the template. So to open it up, you simply click on the label expenses and it takes you to that section of the template. So now we're in the expense information section of the template. Now this is where you document all of your business expenses. So you notice we have 3 buttons to the right to add a new expense, to add cost of service, and to delete expense. Now I'm going to cover only the first and last. The middle is outside the scope of this template. So the first button is self-explanatory. This is the button you use whenever you want to add a business expense. So pretty much whenever you spend business money, you make use of this button to store the information here. So once you click on the button, it pops up a form. Just like other forms, the template will automatically fill the dates. You can modify the day, the month, the year. So I'm going to change this. I'm just going to back dates. So for instance, I'm going to change this to the 12th of April. So you can change the day, the month, the year. The only thing you're not allowed to do is to enter a future date. So if I enter 2019, notice if I move away, it tells me invalid date. So you're not allowed to enter a future transaction. You enter transactions as they occur. So notice I can change this to 2017, no problem. So I can backdate, I can use today's date, but I cannot enter a future date. Next, you indicate the expense type. Now this is a drop-down list and the template has some defined categories like advertising, office expense, rent, and so on. So these are your overhead costs. So pretty much like your monthly running costs. So here you indicate the expense type. I'm going to click on advertising. So let's assume we do monthly advertising for the service we render. Next, I indicate the advertising platform. So let's assume we advertise on Twitter, we run a campaign, and this is for our loan service. Next, you indicate the amount you spent on advertising, the quantity, the template will calculate the total, then you click on enter. So now I've successfully entered our first expense. So the template now knows that I spent a sum of 20,000 in the month of April for advertising. So that's how easy it is. To add another expense, you click on the button, you indicate the dates. I'm equally going to make this the 1st of May. Next, you select the expense type. So let's assume I'm paying my rent. So here I'm going to say office rent for May 2018. How much am I paying for my rent? Let's say 60,000. I'm paying for only 1 month. The template will calculate the total. I click on enter. So that's how you add your business expenses. Now, recall I said we have some defined categories. So later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can modify this. So for instance, if your business doesn't do advertising, you might want to remove this and replace this with maybe internet subscription or something that better suits your business. So I'm going to show you how you can remove values here or you can modify existing values. Okay, so that's pretty much how you add expenses. You indicate the date. Next, you select the category. So for instance, phone credits. So this can be for our Glow line. The amount of credits we purchased. And the template will calculate the total. Once you click enter, it's going to store that expense. So now we've added 3 expenses. The first was in the month of May and the second and third, both in the current month, which is May. So 1st April, 2nd May. Okay, so the total we spent altogether is 85,000. So that's how you add business expenses. You click this button, you supply values. To delete an expense, you simply click on the expense name, click on delete, and then click on yes. So that covers the expense functionality. Lastly, we move to the reports. Now to go to the report, you simply click on the label and it takes us to that section of the template. Now the template supports 4 reports. The first report enables you to get customers' transaction history. So you might want to know, for instance, the summary of all transactions made by a particular customer in a month. So this works with their bank accounts. So later on in the banking section, there are going to be multiple credits and debit transactions for a particular customer. So you might want to see only transactions they made in the month of April or May or a specific month. So to do that, you simply click on this report. Once it opens up, all you need to do is you need to select the customer's name and the date frame. So at the top here, you select the customer's name. Now, once you click on this arrow, it's going to list all the customers in your database. So if you have 200 customers, they're all going to be listed here. But the advantage of this template is you can search. So if, for instance, you know the first name is Rose, once you write Rose, it's going to filter all the 500 contacts and show you only contacts that have Rose in their name. The same way, I can enter, for instance, Ants, and it's going to filter any customer that has these three letters, A-N-T, together in their name is going to be displayed. So this way, even when you have multiple contacts, it's easy for you to identify a contact. So once you do, you click OK. The template will automatically tell you their contact information at the top. So that's why it's called the Get Info report. So you can quickly get contact information and banking information. So we know this is the phone number, this is the email, and this is the amount they currently have in their balance as at today. And they're owing us nothing because the other balance is 0. If I change this to Rose and click OK, you notice the same thing. It will automatically update, and Rose is owing us 220,000. So this way you can quickly obtain account balance information and outstanding balance information. So Rose has 20,000 in her bank account, but is owing us 220 for the loan that she collected. And at the bottom, it's going to tell you all transactions that Rose has made within the period you specify. Now, we don't have so much data, so we can't really see. The only year we have here is 2018. The only month we have here is the month of May. So later on, when you have transactions covering other months, they're all going to be listed here. So Rose has only one transaction, which is the credit transaction in May of 20,000. In the same way, if I change this to Mary, we notice that Mary should have two transactions, the credit and the debits. So 50,000 worth of deposits and 50,000 worth of deposits and 30,000 debits. Okay, so at the top, we know the balance is 20. So you can see how we arrived at the 20,000. And you can filter this by year and by month. So that's the first report in the template. Now, the second report enables you view your income reports so that you can know the total amount you're earning on a monthly basis. So later on, in the other service section, you're going to have multiple transactions. So 10 people might buy registration forms, 20 people might take loans. So it might become quite difficult to identify what you made in a particular month. So you make use of the second report. This will automatically sum it for the month you select. So right now we don't have so much data. So it's only going to have for year 2018, and also it's only going to have for May. But later on, other months of the calendar will be there. Okay, so 2019, 2020, and so on, depending on how long you use the template. So at the bottom, it's going to list everything for you. So you know that in the month of May 2018, you earned 24,000. 20,000 from the loan interest and 2,000 from the two customers for their registration fees. So you know the customer's name, the individual transaction, and the grand total at the bottom on a monthly basis. In the same way, our third report does the same for expenses. So once you open it up, it refreshes, and you can be able to select a particular year and month, and it will tell you the total amount you spent within that period. So right now we also have only 2018, and at the bottom we should have 2 months. So notice here we have April and May because we've entered transactions for April and May in the expense section. So if I want to see only April, once I click April, you notice right now it's showing me 3 transactions. But if I click OK, it's going to filter it and show me only what I spent in the month of April. It will hide all the other months. So I know April 2018, I spent a total of 20,000. If I change this to May, it will automatically refresh and show me only the total amount I spent in the month of May, which is 65,000. So that way you can quickly know what you spend on a monthly basis and what you earn on a monthly basis. Now the last report puts the two together so that you can see it stacked upon each other. So once you open it up, it's a profit and loss statement. The first step is in the upper right hand corner, you enter the year. So this is a multi-year report. So if I change this to 2020, you notice that right now it says from 1st of January 2018 to December 2018. But if I change this to 2020, you notice it automatically updates to 2020. And if I click refresh, it's going to show data for this time frame. So I'm going to change this back to 2018 because this is the only year we have data for. And I'm going to click the refresh button. So once you click refresh, it's going to automatically update the report. So it tells us that in the month of May, we earned 20,000 from loan interest and 4,000 from other sources. This way it's going to tell you for every month. So you can compare if you made more in January compared to February, if you're growing as a business, or if you're retrogressing. So you know the total income you made in the month of May is 24,000. In the same way, if we scroll to the bottom, our expenses are listed. So you know that in the month of April, you spent 20,000 on advertising. In the month of May, you spent 60,000 on your rent and 5,000 on phone credits. So this way you can compare, am I spending more on credits every month? You know, which month did I spend the most on credits and all of that. So you can pretty much be able to better appreciate your data. You can know the month you make the most money, the month you spend the most money, or the quarter that works best for you. So that's pretty much the last report of the template, and to automatically update for the 12 calendar months. And just to show how dynamic this is, I'm quickly going to go to the banking section and I'm quickly going to add revenue just for demonstration purposes for the month of February. Now, please ignore the validity of this data. This is just for demonstration purposes. So I've added 5,000 earned in the month of February this year. So if I go back to our report, starting from our income report, we should now see at the top February listed. So notice now I can select February, unlike before that I had only May. So if I click February, it should show me what I just added, which is 5,000. Notice it has hidden all the other transactions. In the same way, if I go to my profit and loss statement and I click refresh, we should now see in the month of February 5,000 for other sources. So that's how to automatically update the profit and loss statements. So that's a summary of the contribution template.